Okay, so you want to be a better swim coach, right? Maybe even build like the best swim team in the world. Ambitious. We've got this coaching manual here, and it's packed with tips. It even starts with something I found really interesting. It's not just about winning races.
Yeah, it really emphasizes why swimming matters beyond just competition. Fitness, health, and even preventing drowning. It's laying the groundwork for swimming as like a vital life skill, especially for those younger athletes.
Makes sense. Got to build that love for the water first, then you can layer on the, competitive stuff like building a house. Got to have a solid foundation, right?
Exactly. And that foundation includes more than just speed and agility. This manual dives into what it calls those less tangible attributes, body control, focus, even patience.
Okay, patience on a swim team. I'm picturing kids bouncing off the walls waiting to jump in. How does that fit into building a championship team?
Think about it. The ability to stay calm under pressure, to maintain concentration during a long practice, or even during a race. These are the mental aspects that often separate the good from the great.
So it's not just about how fast they can swim a lap. It's about having the mental toughness to push through when they're tired or frustrated or even maybe a little scared.
Exactly. Resilience, discipline, those are champion qualities. And they need to be nurtured alongside those physical skills.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this manual recommend actually structuring practices to build this kind of well-rounded athlete?
It lays out a pretty clear framework. You start with a warm up in the water, which I found interesting, not on land. They have these fun warm ups, like open legs, where swimmers kind of weave through each other's legs in the water.
Okay, that sounds fun, but what's the point? Just get them giggling and splashing around before the real work starts.
Well, it's fun, yes, but it also kind of subtly builds spatial awareness and coordination. Those are essential for efficient swimming. There's even a warm up where they balance a kickboard on their heads while doing breaststroke.
All right, now that one definitely sounds like a challenge,
Mm,
but it's probably more about building focus than actually, you know, swimming with a kickboard on your head during a race.
exactly. It's about building those fundamental skills in a fun, engaging way. After the warm up, you move into skills development. This is where you'll spend like the bulk of your practice time.
All right, before we get into the nitty-gritty of every single stroke, I want to circle back to something the manual calls out basic swimming skills. Why is it emphasizing these? Wouldn't most swimmers already have those down?
Think of it like this. You're building the best swing team in the world, right? That starts with an unshakable foundation. These basic skills, pushing off the wall powerfully, streamlining your body, gliding efficiently, these might seem simple, but they're the building blocks of fast, powerful swimming.
So even experienced swimmers can benefit from going back to basics. It's about refining, about squeezing out, every little bit of wasted energy.
Absolutely. This manual describes it beautifully. The perfect streamline should be like an arrow cutting through the water. Arms stretched tight, head tucked in, toes pointed. That's how you minimize drag and maximize speed.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not just about teaching them to, flail their arms and legs in the water. It's about building a solid foundation of efficient movement. It's like a Formula One car. Every little tweak can make a difference.
Exactly. And speaking of efficiency, let's move on to the strokes themselves, starting with freestyle. It's the fastest stroke and probably the one your swimmers will use most often.
So it's all about that powerful flutter kick, right? Just churn those legs fast as you can.
That's a common misconception. While the kick is important, the real power comes from the arms. The manual breaks it down into three phases: the pull, the push, and the recovery. And a common mistake coaches miss, not emphasizing a high elbow during the recovery phase.
So it's not just about muscling your way through the water. It's about finesse, technique, making every movement count.
Precisely. There's a drill in the manual called catch up, where one arm waits for the other to complete the stroke before moving. It helps develop that precise timing and coordination and reinforces that high elbow recovery we talked about.
It's interesting how even small details like the position of your elbow can make a big difference in your overall speed and efficiency.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about breathing. The manual stresses breathing on every third stroke, alternating sides to develop balanced lung capacity.
So even breathing is strategic. I never would have thought about that.
Every little detail matters when you're aiming for peak performance. Now, while freestyle is about raw power, backstroke requires a different kind of finesse.
Okay, let's dive into backstroke. This one always seems a bit more relaxed since you can breathe easily.
That's true, but the trade-off is you can't see where you're going. The key here is maintaining that long, streamlined body position, just like in freestyle.
Got it. So that arrow image still applies. What about the arm movements? Are they similar to freestyle too?
Yes, the pull, push, and recovery pattern is similar, but there is a subtle difference that makes a big impact. In backstroke, the pinky finger enters the water first during the recovery.
Interesting. I never would have thought about that. By the pinky finger.
It sets up a more powerful catch and pull, maximizing the force generated by each stroke. It's a small tweak, but it makes a big difference in your overall speed and efficiency.
Okay, so small tweaks, big results. That seems to be a recurring theme here.
It certainly is. And speaking of small tweaks, let's talk about the backstroke tumble turn. It looks so effortless when the pros do it.
It's almost like they're dancing, spinning and flipping with such grace.
Exactly. It's all about timing and coordination. The manual breaks down this beautiful sequence. As the swimmer approaches the wall, they flip onto their chest for one arm pull, then tuck into a somersault, plant their feet on the wall, and push off in a perfectly streamlined position, all in one fluid motion.
Wow, that sounds a lot more complicated than just doing a flip underwater. I bet that takes a lot of practice to get right.
It definitely does, but mastering these seemingly small details can shave seconds off your time, which can make all the difference in a competitive race.
So we've covered freestyle, which is about power, and backstroke, which requires more finesse. What's next on our stroke list?
Let's tackle the breaststroke, which is often considered the most technically challenging of the four.
I can see why. That coordination between the arms and legs is so unique. It's almost like they're doing two different things at the same time.
Exactly. And there's also the underwater pullout after the start and each turn. Getting that right can really give a swimmer a boost.
The manual mentions a specific frog kick for the breaststroke. Is that where the power comes from?
It's all about generating power from that whip-like motion of the legs. But a common mistake, pulling the knees too far under the body. That actually increases drag and slows you down.
So it's not just about how wide you can spread your legs, it's about the precise timing and technique of that frog kick.
Precisely. And then, of course, there's the arm movement, which also has its own set of nuances. You'll see it described as an outsweep, an insweep, and a recovery.
Okay, so a lot going on there. What's the key thing to focus on as a coach?
The crucial thing is that both arms move simultaneously. It's easy for swimmers to let one arm lag behind, which disrupts the rhythm and reduces efficiency.
So timing and coordination, just like with the backstroke turn, it's all connected.
It is. And then there's the breathing. The swimmer lifts their head to breathe in during the in-sweep phase and returns to a streamlined position as the arms recover.
Okay, I'm seeing the pattern here. Breathing always seems to be tied to the arm movements, no matter the stroke.
Exactly. It's all about minimizing any disruption to that streamlined position and maintaining efficient movement through the water. But when it comes to efficient movement, nothing quite compares to the butterfly.
Yes, the butterfly. The stroke that separates the casual swimmers from the true competitors.
It's definitely a challenging one, but when executed properly, it's like poetry in motion.
The manual describes it as a beautiful wave-like body movement.
Hmm.
I'm guessing that's where those powerful dolphin kicks come in.
You got it. The legs work together, creating that undulating motion that contributes to that wave. It's not just arm and leg strength, it's about using your entire body to propel yourself through the water.
So it's almost like you're swimming with the water, not against it.
Exactly. And just like with the other strokes, the arm movement follows a pull, push, and recovery pattern. But in butterfly, both arms move simultaneously, creating a symmetrical, powerful stroke.
And the breathing. It seems like there's only a tiny window to get a breath in during the butterfly.
You're right. The swimmer lifts their head to breathe in during the push phase as the arms come under the chest. Timing is everything here, as lifting the head too early or too late can disrupt that rhythm.
So much coordination involved in all of this. This manual is really driving home the point that swimming is about so much more than just strength and speed.
Exactly. It's about finesse, timing, coordination, and mental focus. It's about mastering those seemingly small details that can make a huge difference in the pool.
Speaking of putting it all together, let's talk about the individual medley. That event that combines all four strokes into one race.
The individual medley. The ultimate test of a swimmer's versatility and adaptability. It requires mastery of all four strokes and smooth transitions between them. It's not just about being good at each stroke individually, it's about those seamless transitions.
So it's like a decathlon for swimming,
Yeah,
testing their all-around skills.
exactly. And the turning technique changes slightly between each stroke, so there's a lot to remember.
Okay, so remind me of the order for the individual medley. It's butterfly, backstroke, Then what?
Butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, and then freestyle to finish strong. And each stroke has its own specific rules for touching the wall during turns.
Wow, that's a lot to keep track of, both for the swimmers and the coach.
It is. This manual does a great job of breaking down those details, making it easier to understand and coach.
Okay, so we've gone deep on the four main strokes and even touched on the individual medley, feeling ready to move on to the next level.
Absolutely. There's still so much to explore in this manual. It's like opening up a treasure chest of knowledge.
Well, then let's not waste any time. We'll pick this back up after a quick break.
Welcome back. Ready to dive even deeper into this treasure chest of coaching knowledge.
Absolutely. We've covered the four main strokes, the individual medley, the importance of those foundational skills. So what's next on our journey to building like the world's best swim team?
Now we get into like the nitty-gritty, the drills, the practice activities. This manual goes beyond just explaining techniques. It gives you like actionable tools to actually implement those techniques. And for every stroke, there's like a whole arsenal of drills, each one kind of targeting like a specific aspect.
So it's not just about swimming laps over and over again. It's about these targeted drills that really, hone in on those specific skills.
Exactly. Like for freestyle, you mentioned that catch-up drill earlier. That's a great one for reinforcing that high elbow recovery. But there are like variations, like doing it with just one arm or like changing the breathing pattern.
Okay, so it's not just about like repeating the same drill over and over again. It's about adapting it, getting creative with it, almost like a puzzle.
Yeah, and that's what makes this manual so valuable. It gives you the tools to like tailor your coaching to each individual swimmer's needs. One size fits all doesn't really work when you're training champions.
So what are some other drills that like really stand out to you? The ones that make you think, aha, this is brilliant.
Well, for backstroke, there's one that really focuses on the leg kick. The swimmer holds a kickboard above their head while kicking, forces them to maintain that tight streamline and really engage their core.
That sounds challenging. I can imagine some younger swimmers might struggle with that one.
Yeah, it can be tough, especially for those who are still like developing their core strength. But that's the point. You're helping them like build those fundamental muscles, which are crucial for all aspects of swimming.
Okay, so thinking long term, building those foundational skills that will pay off down the road. What about breaststroke? Any drills that help with that tricky coordination we talked about earlier?
Oh yeah, there's one that I really like. It involves combining the breaststroke arm movement with the front crawl or butterfly kick.
Wait, so mixing and matching different parts of the strokes? That sounds a little unorthodox.
Yeah, it might sound strange, but it's incredibly effective. It isolates the arm technique and allows swimmers to focus on like the timing and power of that pull and push without worrying about like coordinating the kick.
It's like breaking down the stroke into its individual components, mastering each piece before putting it all back together.
Exactly. And that's how you build mastery, right?
Yeah.
Not just doing it, but understanding why you're doing it that way.
Okay, I'm really starting to see the depth of this manual. It's not just a collection of drills. It's like a whole philosophy of coaching, isn't it?
It is. And the butterfly drills, they're also like broken down in a way that makes them approachable, even for those who are like just starting out with this challenging stroke.
Because let's be honest, butterfly can be intimidating. I remember watching it as a kid and thinking, how do they do that?
Exactly. But this manual starts with like simple exercises to develop that wave-like body motion, like
Hmm.
diving down to touch the floor of the pool and then propelling yourself back up using a dolphin kick.
Okay, so getting a feel for that undulating movement before you even like start adding the arms. That makes sense.
And from there, you gradually add the arm movements, the breathing, and you kind of build up to that full butterfly stroke.
It's like building a house, brick by brick. You
Yeah.
start with the foundation and work your way up.
You're getting it. It's all about breaking down those complex skills into like manageable steps.
So we've talked about individual drills for each stroke. Does the manual offer any guidance on like structuring entire practices? I imagine that can be overwhelming, especially for like a new coach.
Oh, absolutely. Beyond just like individual drills, it provides sample practice plans for different skill levels. And they're all structured around that framework we talked about earlier. Warm up, skills development, then fun and playtime, then a mini competition, and a warm down.
Wow, so a coach could like literally take one of these plans and run a practice right out of the box.
Pretty much. Each plan includes like specific drills and activities for each phase, tailored to the experience level of the swimmers.
Okay, so a beginner practice might focus more on those basic skills like pushing off the wall and streamlining.
Exactly. While A more advanced practice might incorporate those complex drills and higher intensity intervals to, really push their
I
limits.
like that it builds in that fun and playtime too. It's not just like drilling them nonstop.
Exactly. It's about creating a positive and enjoyable experience, which is, especially important for those younger swimmers.
And the beauty of these plans is that they're just a starting point. You can adapt them, tailor them to your team's, specific needs and goals.
Yeah, precisely. It's a customizable template, which takes away a lot of the guesswork for coaches. You can focus on observing your swimmers, providing feedback, and helping them improve.
Speaking of observing, you mentioned an evaluation checklist earlier. Is that something that's also like included in this manual?
Yes, this is such a valuable tool. It covers like every key point of technique for each stroke. Head position, hand entry, timing of the kick, it's all there.
Okay, so this isn't just a like mental checklist. It's an actual written checklist that a coach can use.
Exactly. You can go through it with like each swimmer, identify their strengths, pinpoint the areas that need work, and then you can create like a personalized plan for improvement.
It's like a personalized roadmap to success for each swimmer.
Exactly. And what I love about this checklist is that it goes beyond just the physical aspects of swimming. It also includes those mental aspects like focus and race strategy.
So it's really about developing the complete athlete, not just the physical skills.
It is, and that's what this manual is all about. It's giving you the tools to create champions. But before we move on, there's one more crucial element we need to cover.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What have we missed?
Well, we've talked about the philosophy of swimming, the nitty-gritty of techniques, the art of coaching, but we haven't yet touched on the rules of the sport itself.
That's right. Knowing how to swim is one thing, but knowing how to compete legally and fairly is another. It's like knowing how to drive a car versus knowing the rules of the road.
Exactly. And this manual doesn't shy away from that. There's a whole section dedicated to like explaining the rules, both the general rules of competition and then like the specific rules for each stroke.
So can you give me an example? What's a rule that most people wouldn't know?
Well, for example, in both butterfly and breaststroke, you have to touch the wall with both hands simultaneously during turns.
Oh, wow, I did not know that. Seems like a small detail, but I bet that could like make all the difference in a close race.
Absolutely. It could be the difference between winning and getting disqualified. And it goes into detail on other disqualifications too, false starts, changing strokes mid-race. It's all there.
It's not just about like teaching your swimmers how to swim fast. It's about teaching them how to compete within the rules with integrity.
Precisely. It's about respect for the sport and respect for your competitors.
Mhm.
And that's something that you as a coach need to instill in your swimmers from day one.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The philosophy, the techniques, the drills, the rules. This coaching manual is truly comprehensive. But I feel like there's one more piece of the puzzle missing.
You're right. We've talked about training the swimmer, but we haven't talked about one crucial element, the equipment.
Ah, yes. Goggles, swimsuits, those are the obvious ones. Is there more to it than that?
There's a whole world of equipment out there that can help your swimmers reach their full potential. Things like kickboards, pull buoys, and even fins.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these tools of the trade.
Well, for example, kickboards. They're fantastic for isolating the leg kick and building strength and endurance in those all-important leg muscles.
Makes sense. That would be especially helpful for younger swimmers who are still developing their kick technique.
Exactly. And then there are pull buoys. They go between the thighs and help swimmers stay afloat without using their legs.
Ah, so they can focus on their arm technique
Yeah.
without having to worry about, staying above water.
Precisely. It's a great way to isolate those arm movements and focus on things like hand entry, pull, and recovery, which are, crucial for all four strokes.
And fins, those are all about speed, right?
Well, speed is part of it, but they also serve another important purpose, resistance training.
Interesting. So it's not just about swimming faster with the fins, it's about making those leg muscles work harder against that resistance.
You got it. Fins create like more resistance in the water, which forces those leg muscles to generate more power with each kick. It's like weightlifting for your legs, but in the pool.
Okay, that's a great analogy. I never thought about it that way. So using the right equipment is about like maximizing the effectiveness of those drills and practices we talked about earlier.
Precisely. It's about giving your swimmers the tools they need to like isolate specific muscles, target their weaknesses, and become more efficient and powerful in the water.
It's like giving them a secret weapon in their quest for swimming excellence.
Yeah.
But it's not really a secret, is it? It's all right here in this manual.
Exactly. All the knowledge is right there at your fingertips. Now, before we wrap things up, there's one more important aspect I'd like to touch on, something that often gets overlooked in the pursuit of, technical perfection.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the missing piece?
It's the mental game. We touched on this earlier, but it's worth emphasizing again. Building a champion team isn't just about physical strength and technical prowess. It's about mental toughness, resilience, and a winning mindset.
So even with like the perfect technique and the best equipment, if a swimmer isn't mentally prepared, they won't reach their full potential.
Exactly. This manual talks about developing those less tangible qualities: focus, discipline, the ability to stay calm under pressure. These are just as important as those physical skills we've been discussing.
So how do you coach those qualities? Those aren't things you can necessarily like teach with drills and repetition.
You're right. It's a different kind of coaching. It's about building trust and rapport with your swimmers, creating a positive and supportive team environment, and fostering a belief in their abilities.
It's about coaching the whole person, not just the athlete.
Exactly, and that's something this manual emphasizes over and over again. It's about developing well-rounded individuals who happen to be amazing swimmers, not just creating swimming machines.
Okay, I'm seeing the bigger picture now. It's not just about winning races. It's about helping these young athletes like grow and develop into uh, confident, resilient individuals. And who knows, maybe some of them will even become like Olympic champions along the way.
Exactly, and that's the most rewarding part of coaching. Seeing your swimmers succeed both in and out of the pool.
Well, I feel like we've covered an incredible amount of ground in this deep dive. From like the philosophy of swimming to the tiniest details of technique to the mental game to the equipment, it's all been so insightful.
We've only just scratched the surface of what this coaching manual has to offer, but I think we've given you a really solid foundation to build on.
I agree. But before we wrap things up, I'm curious, is there anything in this manual that surprised you, something that made you rethink your own approach to coaching?
You know what really stood out to me was the emphasis on observation. It sounds simple, but it's something I think a lot of coaches, myself included, can easily overlook.
What do you mean by observation? Aren't coaches always like watching their swimmers?
Yes, but it's more than just like seeing them swim up and down the lanes. It's about really seeing them,
Huh.
observing their individual quirks, their strengths, their weaknesses, their habits. It's about noticing those little details that can make a big difference.
So it's about like being present, being fully engaged with each swimmer, not just going through the motions of like a practice plan.
Exactly. It's about being a student of your swimmers, constantly learning and adapting your approach to meet their individual needs.
I like that. It's not just about being a coach, it's about being a mentor, a guide, a partner in their journey.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and that's the essence of this manual. It's about empowering coaches to create a truly transformative experience for their swimmers.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I
Yeah.
feel like I've learned so much, not just about swimming, but about coaching, about leadership, uh, about helping others reach their full potential.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you, and I hope you feel equipped and inspired to go out there and build that dream team you've been envisioning.
I definitely do. But before we send our listener off to conquer the swimming world, there's one last thing I want to touch on, something that this manual brought to light for me.
Okay, what's that?
It's the idea that creating a successful swim team isn't just about what happens in the pool, it's about what happens outside the pool as well.
You're talking about the team culture, the environment you create as a coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This manual talks about fostering like a positive and supportive team environment. But it goes even deeper than that. It touches on the importance of things like nutrition, sleep, stress management, all those things that contribute to a swimmer's overall well-being.
You're absolutely right. It's about treating the swimmer as a whole person,
Yeah.
not just an athlete.
So it's not just about how many laps they can swim or how fast they can do the butterfly kick. It's about helping them like develop healthy habits that will benefit them throughout their lives.
Exactly, and that's what makes coaching so much more than just a job. It's an opportunity to make a real difference in these young people's lives.
This has been an incredible journey. We've covered so much ground, but I still feel like we've only just begun to explore the depths of this coaching manual.
I agree. There's so much more to discover, so many more insights to uncover, but I think we've given you a solid foundation to build on.
I couldn't agree more. So, to our listener out there, I hope you're feeling as inspired and excited as I am. This coaching manual is a treasure trove of knowledge, and I have a feeling it's going to be like your secret weapon in building that world-class swim team you've been dreaming of. All right, so we've talked about a lot, the technique, those drills, even the mental side of things. But I feel like there's got to be one more layer here before we actually get in the pool.
You're right, we've covered how to train the swimmer, but you know there's one element that can really make a difference, and that's the equipment.
We touched on it earlier. You know those kickboards, pull buoys, fins. It's more than just goggles and a swimsuit.
It is. Think of it like this. You wouldn't send a chef into a kitchen with just one knife, would you? Each piece of equipment has a purpose, and knowing how to use them can really up your game as a coach.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break down these tools of the trade for me and how they can help us build that championship team.
Let's start with kickboards. They're great for isolating the leg kick, which we've said is so important for speed and efficiency in the water.
Yeah, makes sense, especially
Yeah.
for younger swimmers who are still, working on their kick technique.
Exactly. It lets them focus on just the legs, building strength and endurance without having to worry about the arms or breathing. The manual even talks about different ways to hold the kickboard to work different muscles.
Oh, so there's a strategy to it, even with a kickboard, huh? What about those pull buoys? I remember using those as a kid, but mostly to just goof off and float around.
Oh, yeah, they can be fun, but they also have a real purpose. Pole buoys go between the thighs and help swimmers stay afloat without kicking.
So like giving them a temporary mermaid tail.
You could say that. It really lets them focus on just their arms. The hand entry, the pull, the recovery, all key for every stroke.
Okay, I'm seeing the value here. It's like breaking those complex movements down and mastering each piece before putting it all back together.
Exactly. And then there are fins. Most people think fins are all about speed, and they're not wrong, but the real magic of fins is in the resistance they provide.
So it's not just about swimming faster with the fins, it's about making the legs work harder against that resistance.
You got it. Fins create more resistance, which forces those leg muscles to work harder, build more power. It's like weightlifting for the legs, but in the water.
I like that analogy. I never thought of it that way. So using the right equipment is about maximizing the effectiveness of those drills we talked about, right?
Exactly. It's about giving your swimmers the tools to really focus on specific muscles, target those weak spots, and become more efficient, more powerful swimmers.
It's like giving them a secret weapon in their journey to becoming a better swimmer. But it's not really a secret, is it? It's all right here in this manual.
Exactly. All the knowledge is right there. Now, before we wrap this up, I do want to say one more thing. This is important, and it's something that often gets overlooked, especially when we're focusing so much on the technical side.
All right, lay it on me. What are we missing?
The mental game. We talked about it a little earlier, but it bears repeating. A championship team isn't just built on physical strength and perfect technique. It's about mental toughness, resilience, a winning mindset.
So even with perfect technique and the best equipment, if the swimmer isn't mentally ready, they're not going to reach their full potential.
Exactly. This manual really stresses those less tangible skills, focus, discipline, being able to stay calm under pressure. Those are just as important as the physical skills.
So how do you coach that? That's not something you can, teach with drills and laps.
Right. It's a different kind of coaching. It's about building that trust, creating a positive and supportive environment for the team and helping them believe in themselves.
It's about coaching the whole person, not just the athlete.
Exactly. And that's a point this manual makes again and again. Develop well-rounded individuals who happen to be great swimmers, not just swimming machines, right?
Yeah, okay, I'm really seeing the big picture here. It's not just about winning races. It's about helping these young athletes grow and develop into, confident and resilient people. And hey, maybe some of them will even go on to be Olympic champions along the way.
Exactly. And that's what makes coaching so rewarding, seeing your swimmers succeed in the pool and out.
Well, I gotta say, this has been an amazing deep dive. We've covered so much, from the philosophy of swimming to the tiniest details, the mental game, equipment. It's been so insightful.
We've really only just scratched the surface of what this manual has to offer, but I think we've given everyone listening a really strong foundation.
I think so too. So for everyone listening out there, I hope you're feeling as fired up as I am about all this. This coaching manual is a goldmine of information, and I have a feeling it's going to be your secret weapon in building that world-class swim team you've been dreaming of.